Am I wrong for saying my wife will have to quit her job if we get booted from another daycare? My wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, Alexis. Both of us work and Alexis has attended daycare since she was 1. In the 2 years since, we have been asked to leave 2 programs because my wife is a micromanager. I admit both of us went into the first program not really understanding daycare. I quickly learned that they can't provide personalized care, and after learning from her teachers, I reset my expectations. My wife, however, has a lot of anxiety and worries about our daughter. She hates when she even gets a little upset. She's in therapy and is working on it. First program, my wife would constantly watch the live feed and call the daycare multiple times a day. We had several talks about it, and the school talked to us twice. My wife ended up screaming at one of the teachers and then the director. We were terminated immediately. The second daycare was a little better because my wife began therapy. But my wife was still so nervous and had a complaint every single day. These were not important things. Small things like how she saw another child took away a toy from Alexis and she would cry. The teacher would give the toy back to Alexis, but my wife didn't understand why the other child wasn't punished for it. This daycare didn't kick us out, but did eventually suggest that this may not be the best program for us. My wife and I decided to pull Alexis out. My wife, because of her anxiety, myself, because I knew my wife had burned bridges and was becoming one of those moms. We chose a smaller home daycare this time as we couldn't afford another center. The woman who owns it is very nice but also firm. She stands by her boundaries and won't let my wife break any rules, whereas the centers were definitely more accommodating. My wife would take any inch she got. This time she doesn't get that opportunity. I thought all was well as the owner only speaks to my wife for the most part. Then I get put in a group text saying my wife has been bombarding the owner with text every day, despite the owner saying she will text her at lunch when things are settled. She said at this point she'll only be responding at specific times of the day and not looking the rest. The owner then sent several pages of the contract with passages highlighted reminding us of certain policies my wife has violated. I was pissed. When Alexis went to bed that night, my wife and I talked. I said this was our last option for daycare. The other centers are too expensive and this was the only home daycare in the area that we like. A nanny is not in our budget. My wife made a million excuses, including that it's not her fault that she's anxious. I said if we are asked to leave this program too, my wife will be the one quitting her job to watch Alexis, not me. This upset my wife. I pointed out I've spoken to her kindly about this plenty of times. I encouraged her to keep up her therapy, but she can't keep getting us kicked out of programs. My wife is now not speaking to me. So, am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for not getting a tattoo removal procedure to remove my child's dead name from my body? Hi everyone, I'm 36 female and I have 2 daughters, one of which came out as trans a year ago. Let's call them Maria, 17, and Anna, 15, my trans child. I would like to start by saying that when Anna came out, I had no problems so long as her transition didn't come in the way of school or grades. The problem, however, is I have Anna's dead name tattooed on my body. I have had the tattoo since she was a toddler. It's pretty visible as it's on my neck, and every time Anna sees it, she gets visibly upset. She's told me she's looked into tattoo removal surgery and recommended that I get it removed or covered with her new name. While I do have the money for it, I do not think it's something I want to deal with. After all, it is just a tattoo, and I don't think I should have to get it removed to show my love and dedication for this new identity. Anna, however, has accused me of not taking her seriously, and that if I truly loved or cared, I'd get it removed. I do understand getting the tattoo removed or covered would show dedication, but I truly do not see it as necessary. I think she's being absolutely ridiculous, pushing the idea. I'm an adult after all, and can make decisions about my own body, just as she can. This issue has put a strain on our relationship, and now she barely looks at me these days. Am I the asshole?
I lived with an insane person in New York City for 3 months, and this is the full story time. So if you've been invested in my Roommate from Hell series, watch this whole video because I'm answering the most asked questions and I'm not leaving any details out. Let's begin. I started school in fall of 2021 in Manhattan, but I ended up really disliking the program, so I left after the first semester, and I had about a week to find a new place to live before they were going to kick me out of the dorms. I joined a women's housing group on Facebook, and that's where I found Sharon in her apartment in Upper Manhattan, which seemed like a dream come true because housing or rent is insane in Manhattan, and this place was going to be $1,100 a month, including utilities, and it had a big kitchen and a laundry room, so I was like, this is really ideal. The apartment seemed luxurious compared to the other options in New York, most of which were shoeboxes with like 4 people shoved in them. The day after I moved into Sharon's apartment, I flew back to Oregon to visit family, and then right after I got back to New York, I went on a week-long job trial. So I was trialing as a nanny for these billionaires. Seriously, one of the wildest experiences of my life. I was gone most of the first 2 weeks. She loved that because she wanted a roommate who wasn't home. If I was around, she became visibly angry and irritated. I got back from my job trial and decided I was going to break up with my partner. At the time, the relationship was shitty, so I was a little bit depressed, you know? Going to school didn't work out, my relationship didn't work out, it was the dead of winter in New York. I just wanted to be home and watch movies in bed for a couple days. Also, just moved. I needed to unpack all my things and get settled, so I just wanted to, like, chill. Guess who hated that? I felt like I couldn't leave my room because if I did, she would find a reason to yell at me. If there was even a drop of water on the counter, she would like yell at me to come out of my room to point at it. I went on a second job trial a few days later, which is when she went in my room and accused me of defacing the AC and causing a bunch of water damage. This was my final straw with when it came to having a lock on my door. I had wanted to put one on and had even asked if I could, and she said no, that it was a fire hazard because of the fire escape, which didn't make sense because she had the fire escape attached to her bedroom window. I could tell on other occasions that she had been going in my room. I grew up with a sister, okay? I know if my stuff's been moved around, and she was going in my room. It is 7 a.m. and she's blowing up my phone saying there's all this damage, and I say, can you send me a picture? Can you send me a video? Which she doesn't. She's like, you ripped the AC out, you defaced the AC, which I did not. There's a side panel that slides open, so I slid it open because my room was like 80 degrees in the dead of winter. I say, I will be home in a few hours, please just wait. I will be home soon, can you just leave it? I get home and surprise, surprise, there is no damage. All of my stuff has been moved and she put some tape over the AC unit, but it is exactly how I left it. There's no damage, she has no proof of damage, she doesn't send me anything. All she says is that she had to have it reinstalled while I was gone, apparently all that morning, and that it cost several $100s and I need to pay for it. Absolutely, I will not. In total, I've spent probably less than a week actually sleeping in the apartment at this point. She starts inventing all these crazy rules, like I'm not allowed to open the blinds because I might break them. I'm not allowed to throw lettuce in the trash can because I'm going to make it stink. I'm not allowed to have phone calls in the living room. But just in case I didn't get the hint that she didn't want me in the space, she decided to remove all the TV remotes and other things from the common space. You know how you can hear her stomping in all those move out day videos? Well, she would charge like that down the hallway in the middle of the night. I would wake up and my heart would start racing. I was just so afraid of her. I started sleeping with stuff piled in front of my door and a taser next to me, but I was like, I'm done doing this. I decided to seek out the building manager and was like, hey, I really want to put a lock on my door. Is this allowed? And he said, yes, of course, we'll come install it for you. And I was like, I'll just do it myself because I don't want to have another screaming fight with her. I just wanted to move home to Oregon at that point. I was terrified living there. Going to school didn't work out. My relationship didn't work out. Living in New York and that apartment didn't work out. And I was so miserable and depressed. I just wanted to leave. So the day I put the lock on my door, we got into this huge screaming fight. I gave her notice on the spot. I was like, I'm done. I've had enough. Like, affects me a little bit. So sorry. I need to take a deep breath. Okay. After I gave her notice, she told me I needed to pay the next month's rent or move out immediately. Simultaneously, while threatening to change the locks on me, she also was begging me not to move out and told me I was her ideal roommate and that she actually loved having me here and I was the best roommate she's ever had. Yes, I have been very respectful of you, but meanwhile, you've been yelling at me every single day if there's a singular hair in the bathroom or a drop of water on the kitchen counter. I kept my family updated on what was going on the entire time. My sister said, hey, I'm gonna help you come move out. I'm gonna bring extra luggage. I'm gonna bring it back to Oregon for your move. On one of Sharon's better days, I told her that my sister was coming to stay and was very respectful about it. I was like, hey, are you cool with this? She was like, yeah, totally. We'll pull the air mattress out. And we agreed to this before I ever moved in that it was okay if I wanted to have a friend over, sister, partner, etc. But then Sharon decided to invent a no guest policy. If I so much as tried to have my sister step foot in the apartment, she was going to change the locks and throw me out. This fight about my sister coming went on every single day up until my sister arrived. She removed everything from the apartment. The bar stools, everything in the kitchen, the cookware, the bathroom mats, the shampoo, conditioner, the toilet paper, which I helped pay for, all the cleaning supplies, the carpet, all the throw pillows, any candles, decor. She took the art off the walls, took the nails out, patched the holes over with putty and painted over them. She wouldn't so much as leave any of her toiletries in the bathroom. Like, she took her toothbrush out and I was like, does she think I'm crazy? Does she think that I'm gonna do something to her toothbrush? Like, she's the crazy one. What does she think I'm gonna do? So that made me paranoid. So then I was like, well, shit, I shouldn't leave my toothbrush in the bathroom either because she's the actual crazy one. So what if she does something to my toothbrush? She wouldn't even leave, like, food in the kitchen. Do you think I'm gonna poison you? Do I need to worry about you poisoning me? She was making me paranoid. She treated me like I was a filthy animal. She covered all of the couches in sheets, the kitchen table in a blanket so that I wouldn't use it. She just covered everything. I don't even think it's going out on a limb to say that this woman is incredibly OCD. Like, I was in the kitchen one day and she would obsessively vacuum and clean and she vacuumed over my foot. I was standing there making breakfast and she vacuumed over my foot. My sister's visit was a bit of a shit show. She yelled at my sister and was very nasty to her, and I was like, this is not okay. Like, if you want to treat me like this, fine, I'll put up with it, but I'm not subjecting my sister to this at all. We would get up early, make breakfast, leave the apartment, hang out, check out some places in New York, come back. She helped me pack a bunch of shit to take back to Oregon and was on her way. 1 week later was my official move out day, which is the footage I've been sharing with you guys this week. My friend Jalen, who I went to school with, came to help me ship a couple boxes and also to be a witness to the whole situation, because I knew that Sharon would be 10 times as bad as she was in those videos had I not had another person there to kind of diffuse it. If you think she's crazy in those videos, you have no idea. You have no idea. Oh yeah, and she did not have my security deposit. No, not for a second. She did not have that $500. She goes on saying, no, I don't have Zelle anymore. I can't sell it to you. She wanted to scam me with a cashier's check. She wanted to say, oh, I'll give it to you after you move out. You need to leave the building. Yeah, like, you're gonna slam the door in my face. Absolutely not. She kept calling her brother from Midtown and begging him to come, and I was like, I need to get out of here, because if he's half as crazy as she is...
How I almost died this weekend. For this story, I have to go back to last week because that's when it all started. It was my finals week for college. This is all going to make sense as the story goes on, I promise. So I've always been super nervous about any test or anything. Even in high school, I was like that. So I'd been nauseous all week and was like, probably just the nerves for my exam because I've never had college finals before. Then Friday comes around. I take my last final. I was still really nauseous and I was like, well, I'm done with all my finals. I'm done with all my schoolwork. Why do I still feel so sick? I wake up the next day and my throat is killing me. So I tell my mom, I feel terrible. My throat is killing me. I thought the nausea would stop once my finals were over and it hadn't. So she's like, okay, we need to go to the doctor. We go to the doctor. I go in, I tell them about my symptoms. I'm a really bad headache. I've been really nauseous. My throat hurts. They go, okay, we're going to test you for strep. Test comes back positive, and they send me in a prescription for a Z-Pack, which is zithromycin. She goes, okay, take this. You're going to feel better by Sunday. At this point, it's Friday by the time I went to the doctor, and this is where stuff gets a little complicated. After I get my medicine, I go home, I lay around most of the day, and I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning, and I feel even worse than I did the whole rest of the week and that day before when I decided I needed to go to the doctor. I hadn't gotten up out of the bed. I was just like, oh, I feel terrible. I go to put some chapstick on. I'm like, why does it feel like there is a literal rock in my top lip? And it hurts to even rub my lips together. From what I knew, I wasn't allergic to any medication. I wasn't allergic to any food I was eating, nothing. So I was like, what is happening? Like, is this a side effect of strep? Like, this has happened. So obviously I hop on Google. I Google it and it's like, oh yeah, sometimes it can be a side effect of strep. And so I wasn't worried about it. And at this point, only one side of my lip was swollen. As the day goes on, I'm like, my throat hurts. And now the other side of my lip is swollen. This is what my lip looks like normally. And this is what it looked like. I'll put the picture over here. I had just taken my medicine, so I'm waiting for it to kick in. I wait literally all day. And at this point, it's maybe like 9:30 at night. And my chin is swollen, my face is swelling, and I cannot get anything down my throat. I was like, Mom, we've got to go to the hospital. I really do not think this is how strep is supposed to feel. She said, okay, let's load up, let's get to the hospital, let's go. When I pull up to the hospital, I tell the lady at the desk, tell her I tested positive for strep and that I haven't been able to drink anything and my face has been swelling, my lips have been swelling, and I'm in there for maybe all of 2 minutes after I told her this, and they immediately take me back. I get into the little ER room, the doctor starts checking me out, he's checking my throat, everything. Another doctor comes back, I get an IV put in and they pump me full of all these medicines. At this point, I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just thought I had strep. Like, what is happening? Like, strep can't make your throat shut. Like, what is going on? They tell me, thank goodness you came in and thank the Lord you did not wait any longer because this could have gotten so much worse. In my IV, they did give me some Benadryl. They wanted to see if I could sleep it off and see if the swelling went down first before they sent me home. I wake up from my nap and I look at the doctor and I'm like, what magic did you just put in this IV? Because I feel a million times better. The doctor starts to give me the rundown. He basically tells me, you were having an extreme allergic reaction to the Z-Pack you were taking. And if you would not have come in, your throat most likely could have swollen shut. And they tell me, since it's zithromycin, you can't take any medicine that also ends in mycin, because it's all basically the same stuff, which means you could possibly be allergic to other medications in the same family. So I go home that night from the hospital after they put me on the new medicine. I wake up the next day, and when I tell you, the difference in how I felt was absolutely insane. Just to let y'all know, I am so much better now. I feel completely myself again, thank the Lord. But I want to put this out there. I'm not telling y'all this story to draw attention to myself. I just want to tell y'all, if you feel like something is wrong, go with your gut, because most of the time you are right.
Am I the astronaut for freaking out at my mom for not upholding her promise for the care of my child while my wife and I were in the hospital for the birth of baby number 2? My wife and I just got out of the hospital with the birth of our second child. Both of my parents were supposed to take care of and spend the night with my older son, 2.5, during this time. We went through every single detail together, as this is the first time both my wife and I would be away from him overnight. So it was a big moment for us mentally. Both of my parents got the play-by-play, and our understanding was both parents would be staying overnight to help our son. My mom would talk about how they would both sleep either on the couch or on our air mattress in our bedroom, as my son had a tendency to get up several times during the night. He will walk through the house at night looking for us, so we wanted to make sure my parents would sleep on the same floor as him and be easy to find. While I ultimately trust both of my parents, my mom is a nurse and has a great overall mothering, caring capacity. We were comforted that she would be with my son the first night away. She has spent more time with him and was involved with caring and changing his diaper. I trust my dad, but he did not have the same level of caring or changing diapers or etc. with him. Without telling either my wife or I, my mom decided to not spend the night at our house and left my dad there alone. She left after my son went to bed so she could get a better night's sleep at home for work the next day. I found this out from the cameras at the house. I'm not 100% certain on this, but I think there is a high probability she turned off tracking on her phone as her driving history randomly stopped. We share location via app. I found this out on my own the first night in the hospital and did not say anything to her because I did not want the drama while we were in the hospital. She did it again the second night. Shit. I asked my wife while in the hospital if it was her understanding that my mom would not spend the night at my house, and she said definitely not. We contemplated if I needed to go home to make sure everything would be good with my son. While in the hospital, she was texting me updates about how the night went, the number of times my son woke up, etc. I just felt like she was trying to play it like she was there, even when I knew she was not. I texted my dad directly to check in. After we left the hospital, I texted my mom saying, going forward, I would like better communication regarding the care of my children. Basically, if she promises something to me regarding the care of my children, she needs to either fulfill it or discuss it with me if the plans change, so I am aware. My mom got extremely defensive, justifying her decision, and would not let me talk over the phone. Her position was that nothing bad happened to my son. He was always safe and at home. I said I'm done with this conversation and hung up. I took a later call from her and let her know all of my frustrations with this in a not so calm manner. I definitely used some swear words that I'm not proud of. I was worked up. She tried to tell me she didn't want to burden me with the details while we were in the hospital. I told her every detail will always matter to me as it relates to the care of my child. She broke her promise to me, and she should be ashamed of herself for causing all of this drama on day number 2 of my kid's life. I told her I lost some trust in her, and I am disappointed that this was not discussed as part of our plans. Am I the astronaut? Edit 1, to clarify, the sleeping arrangement was suggested by her. I offered the bed, and she said she doesn't want to mess with changing out the sheets. I could have told her I would handle the sheets looking back. Our couch is large, oversized L sectional. 2 full adults can easily lay stretched out without touching each other. Edit 2, there was no plan but instructions. He had to get to daycare during the day, and they needed to know how to sign him in, walk to classroom, etc. Edit 3, the camera is over the driveway, and I have told them it records before. It was no secret. Edit 4, I did not monitor my mom's driving history per se. We use a family sharing app that shows the past couple of days' history by default. She can see mine too. All right, here's the update. Thank you for all your feedback. We talked and both apologized. I apologized for how I reacted and the language I used. It was asshole-ish of me. She apologized for not communicating the change in plans. She said it was poor judgment and it will never happen again. Apparently, she thought about letting us know but did not think it was needed because she knew our kid was safe. I made it clear I was not concerned with dad caring for our kid. It was about feeling like we were misled. She agreed. I think for me, this demonstrates the blurred line between parents and grandparents, and it's obvious our communication needs work. I can't thank you all enough for your perspectives.
Girl, I have to tell you about this experience I had last Saturday. I have never been so embarrassed at a wedding in my entire life. So I get to this venue. I pull in and I see that there's like only a really small parking lot at the front of the venue, and I'm like, okay, I need to drive around to a larger parking area and unload all my stuff there, because I didn't want to take up the small parking lot. There were like 3 spots in this tiny parking lot, so I was like, no, I'm gonna drive around to the back and see if I can find more parking, and then, you know, I'll just walk. I'm not going to take the spots from somebody who might actually need it. And then once I started getting around to the back of the venue, I was like, wait a minute. I don't see any additional parking back here. I need to turn around. I'm like driving into the ceremony space. Like, I felt like it was like a walking path. I was like, maybe this isn't enough room. Like, there was only space for 1 car to fit through there. And so I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to be driving here. So I start turning my car around, and it is a little gravel driveway, and it's like surrounded by grass. So unfortunately I did have to like drive onto the grass a little bit. And the wedding like venue owner, I didn't know who she was at the time, but there's a lady in all black standing in the ceremony space, and she starts screaming at me. And I start panicking because I'm just a girl, okay? Like, I can't drive. I'm not very good at it. And I started freaking out because I was just like, I mean, there's nowhere else for me to go. I can't back straight up. Like, it's like so thin. Like, I knew I would run into something, and I can't drive forward because there's nowhere for me to park. I have to go back and park in that little tiny parking lot. And she's screaming at me, like telling me don't back up, like don't drive on the grass. I'm driving on the grass. I'm having a meltdown. Now thinking back on this, I'm literally cringing because that was so embarrassing. And I was just like, oh my god, like this woman hates me. And eventually she just like throws her hands up and she's just like, F it. And I was like, okay, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm literally apologizing as I'm backing up. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, there's nowhere else for me to go. And not once did she try to encourage me to go straight. Not once did she try to encourage me to keep going where there were more parking spots. I just couldn't see them. So I assumed that I just went the wrong way. So I backed up, I go park in the front of the building, I unload all my stuff, and I go to the bridal suite to get started doing my job. I'm a makeup artist. So I start unloading all of my stuff out of the car. I'm literally shaking and on the verge of tears because I just hate stuff like that. It just makes me so uncomfortable. And I just like always feel really nervous going somewhere I've never been before. There were no signs. There wasn't like any way for me to know that there was additional parking. I thought I was going the totally wrong direction. And I was like, I need to turn around because I'm driving into the ceremony space right now. And I don't see any additional parking. I don't see a sign that says more parking, like nothing like that. So anyway, I go start unloading my stuff. I go upstairs, get set up in the bridal suite, and start doing makeup. And at some point, my bride and I have a conversation about how this venue owner has made wedding planning literal hell for her the entire time she's been planning her wedding. And I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. Having a super embarrassing interaction like that right before I got started doing my job made me so nervous all day. I was just like, oh my god, this woman hates me. I'm literally never gonna be able to come back to this venue. Now I kind of hope that I never get asked to come back because my experience after that did not get any better. So I'm in the middle of doing some of the bridesmaids, and I'm actually taking a little break sitting down in my chair, kind of in a back corner of the room, just kind of out of the way, waiting on, I think the mother of the groom was next on my timeline, so I was just waiting on her to arrive. And in comes the owner again, and I'm like, oh my god, who's about to get blessed out? So she starts like talking about a black SUV. She's like, there's a black Ford SUV parked in the front. And I'm like waiting on more information. I don't say anything. And she's like, there's a black SUV parked in the front. It's a Ford SUV. And I was like, is it a Bronco? And she was like, I don't know what it is. And I was like, okay, sorry. I was like, if it's a Bronco, that's me. And she's like, why are you parked there? And I was like, I I'm doing makeup, so it was just an easy spot for me to unload. I can move if I need to. And she was like, you can't park there. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know that. I can move. And she's like, are you a bridesmaid? And I was like, no, I'm doing makeup. I'm a vendor. I work here. Well, if you're a bridesmaid, you can't be parked there. And I'm like, I'm not a bridesmaid. I'm working. And she's like, oh, well, your car needs to be moved before the ceremony starts. And some people might not know this. It's not common sense to everyone, but in the wedding industry, most people know that the hair and makeup artists leave way before the ceremony starts. Like, I'm leaving at 2 o'clock. The ceremony doesn't start until like 5. And that's pretty standard. I do that at almost every wedding ever. I'm never there when the ceremony starts. I was like, okay, no big deal. I'll be gone way before the ceremony starts. Like, it's fine. What's worse is that it was just so embarrassing because it was in front of everybody, like the entire bridal party. And I was just like, please stop yelling at me. Like, I already am scared of you. Please stop talking to me. While I loved my bride and the bridal party was incredible, and they were all so sweet about it. They're like, we're so sorry, like, she's kind of an asshole, like, it is what it is. I was so ready to leave. By the time I got out of there, I was like, oh my god, so much anxiety. Which, again, I know I messed up by driving on the grass, but I just, like, the way she was talking to me, oh my god, it made me feel so embarrassed. I've never really, I don't interact with the venue owner, like, ever, but every time that I do, it's always a pleasant experience. And I felt like this woman was just, like, not happy to be there. Like, there were times when she was yelling at the bridal party for things, and I was just like, why are you in this industry if you, like, aren't happy to be a part of today? Like, I just don't get it. Like, why are you even here? So I hope I never have to go back, but if I do, I hope I don't ever have to interact with that woman ever again, because it was terrifying. But we survived.
Things my ex-boyfriends did and I still stayed with them. Beat the shit out of me numerous times. Threw his bike through my mom's living room window and smashed the whole thing. Threw my phone on a busy street, like a main road, and I had to run out and try not to get hit by a car. Also smashed and completely broke 2 of my phones. He would play a little fun game called Chasing Me with a Knife. Essayed me the first night we ever hung out. I didn't even remember until after we broke up. Cheated on me over 100 times, and one of them being on my birthday. Ooh, this is a good one. Hit me on my head with a frying pan because I looked in the direction of his brother. Going back to that one, would accuse me of cheating on him with his brother if I went upstairs and used the restroom. Even if I was only gone for 30 seconds, I was cheating. Would wake me up at all hours of the night if my location moved an inch. Would blow up my phone and my mom's phone at 3 o'clock in the morning if my location said I wasn't exactly in my house, if I was like a little bit outside of my house. I was 16, bitch. Where the fuck was I gonna go? Poured a whole can of, I think it was iced tea, on my head while we were at the thrift store, and then proceeded to slap me. And no coworkers did anything, by the way. Hooked up with my friend. He was supposed to just be going to a party. If I tried to break up with him, he would come over to my house or threaten to kill me or my dog and my family. So I couldn't break up with him. He would purposely get in a fight with me before I had to go home so that he would make me walk home to my house at 12:30 in the morning. And it took me about 30 minutes to walk home. And I almost got kidnapped multiple different times while walking home alone. I was, again, 16. Another one was he told me he stabbed himself when I tried to break up with him, and then sent me pictures of him in the hospital. Breakup is done. You could definitely say I left that relationship with a whole bunch of mental illnesses. Like, now I was a little kid. I was literally 16 years old. But ladies, know your worth. Don't be stupid like I was. If he treats you like shit, leave. They don't change. Trust me. Trust me.